Good evening, everyone. I'm Neha Thakur from Great HR, hosting the Parichay session today. First of all, a very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining us today to discuss an extremely interesting topic, HR tech trends since the inception of COVID-19. We are privileged to have two eminent HR leaders with us today here in this session here to share their opinions and give us an insight on various aspects of HR technology and how it has helped us manage remote workforces in these unprecedented COVID times. This session will discuss about the trending HR technologies emerging from the pandemic that HR professionals should be prepared for. The session will be divided into two parts. First, we'll have a thoughtful discussion with the panelists, and it will be followed by a Q&A session where you can ask your doubts and queries. All right. So you can also type in your questions in the chat window while the discussion is on so that we can pick them up during the Q&A session. So without further ado, let's begin. Let me introduce our esteemed guests to you. Our first honorable guest for today is Mr. Sanjeev Lahiri, a seasoned HR professional with more than 2 decades of experience in managing human resources across industries with a proven track record in formulating and managing people strategies and practices of organizations, including startup businesses in India, Europe, Asia, and Africa. C-suite HR professional with an experience at a global level in information and communications technology, trading, distribution, manufacturing, and holding companies, including startups, prior to working with GRP. He has a history of working in the telecommunications and international trading and distribution industry in companies like Tata Communications Limited. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. That's an
Welcome, Sanjeev.
Hi, Sudeep. Thank you so much. Look forward.
Sure.
Thank you. Next, we have our esteemed speaker, Mr. Sudeep Kumar Sen. With more than 2 decades of experience, Mr. Sudeep specializes in sales force planning, hiring, training, productivity matrix development, and implementation. His passion for scale and innovative thinking has contributed to the remarkable growth of several large business conglomerates. He is a well-known speaker and a frequent contributor to prominent HR journals. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you, and look forward to a wonderful session.
Same here, sir. So as we start another calendar year of working remotely, we have seen an enormous change in the scenario of how HR has been functioning pre-pandemic. So my first question to Mr. Sudeep is, how HR tech has helped companies in virtual workforce management?
Good. That's a very interesting question. We need to understand that with the outbreak of pandemic, we have gone through 3 different challenges, or I would say 3 different buckets of challenges. The first was, I think, the first wave. And subsequently, when it happened that there was a lockdown, the most important thing was communication, that how do you communicate? And believe you me, this is not a one-to-one telephonic conversation. This is how do you do a group communication and how do you do a mass communication, because you are no more able to gather them in a room in an office or perhaps, right? Now, what happened is prior to pandemic, we had been using technology. It is not that technology just kind of dropped in there. We were using it at our convenience, but then that only became the way to communicate, right? So I think the platform what we are using right now and the multiple platforms, which is Teams and etc., became the way to kind of communicate, and that became the very critical factor, right? Along with that, also it happened that, which was probably the ingredient of communication, which is the well-being, that how have you been and how has your family been into kind of, with the outbreak of pandemic and etc. So that's where without this, it would have been extremely challenging for organizations to kind of connect with the employees. One. Second is also engage them, right? Because we started seeing engagement programs. The second was during this course, business as usual had to go on, right? I mean, obviously there were obstacles, but it had to go on.
Yeah.
And which is very important because finally that helps employees also to save their jobs, organization also to grow or whatsoever. So the next important thing was employee onboarding. If you see the element of application-based onboarding which started, which is you can actually get, get an employee onboarded into your organization, into your system in a remote way. So the applications came into place and the applications were fantastic. They had the features of scanning documents, uploading and everything in a very quick time. So I think that kind of took away the challenges, that took away the turbulent times. It brought a lot of ease of doing business during those turbulent times. So that's, I think the employee onboarding happened. It also happened that what do you do with the regular staff? Because everybody is not in a platform where you can punch in an attendance in a remote working, right? And while remote working was only the way, but then there was no provisions for mass people to do that. But again, here applications came into play. And today, if you see, apart from onboarding, their attendance, management, leave, and etc., came into that virtual platform. So that's the third thing which kind of came into. And we have heard this, that during as we kind of started moving in with the lockdown and probably then further relaxation, work was happening, mental wellness became a very important aspect because people, this was the first experience for people and a lot of challenging situations had come. So the mental wellness was very important. Even then, if you see, technology played a very key role in two ways. One is it kind of kept people engaged through communication. Some of the organization invested in having applications where people can actually put across that how they feel. It's a very informal way of engagement, but yet an effective engagement. And I think the idea was to kind of get them out of any kind of a stress or a mental agony. There were also provisions where people can actually report if they're really going through some very tough times. And then once communicated, the HR fraternity of that organization quickly jumped into it. So I think technology overall played an extremely important role. More so, we recognize that the way forward is technology. Technology adoption happened much more. And I think that's what I would like to put across. That had technology not been there, I think, we would have not been able to fight the pandemic the way we have been able to.
Correct. I agree with you. This is so relatable. All the points that you have come across were very, very insightful. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
So as we know, today technology has become an integral part of human resource management, starting from onboarding, as sir rightly said, a new employee, joining the organization, to managing the exit formalities. Everything is being done virtually. So we would like to know from Mr. Sanjeev about the contribution of HR tech in managing each phase of employee life cycle.
Okay. See, what Sudeep has already said is very, very pertinent, and thanks, Sudeep, for answering at least half of my question. See, so honestly speaking, if we just look back into February 2020, yeah, and we will focus on technology. And I'm not for a second saying, I completely agree with Sudeep, that technology did not exist before this. It did exist. It was adopted in some form or the other. A lot of skepticism were around it, right? To adopt technology to manage the HR processes. Having said that, hats off to a lot of organizations who had adopted a complete, as a part of their business needs, they had adopted to the full suite HCMs and so on and so forth. I'm not naming anyone in particular, but there are plenty of these suits available. Now the key point that comes in a situation where you are forced to run the business, being remote, and also given the challenges that every business has faced, or most of the businesses faced, where we had to take talent decisions. There was probably no other way than to adopt technology in whichever form the organizations could afford to, very honestly, right? Interviews no longer, we switched on straight away to video interviews, right? We know a couple of headhunters, recruitment agents coming on and actually offering the at least the screening clip, maybe 5 minute, 10 minutes clip for the organizations. Now earlier this was a part of the paid module, courtesy the pandemic. Somehow it came in as a value add. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Onboarding, Sudeep has already mentioned. So your entire, any process that you think of, right from your interview, floating the JDs, to every step, onboarding the person, getting, and all the onboarding, the entire facet of onboarding. A lot of organizations have rigorous trainings during onboarding. Yeah. So there are plenty of LMS solutions available in all kind of price brackets that got, which people, which a lot of organizations did invest in. Managing performance. I'm not even looking at attendance. It was already there, but I think the whole focus of managing performance and the concept of performance changed from actually checking off the box to targets, from the whole effort and the delivery. So managing that whole chain, a lot of collaboration tools came up, right? I am sure none of us were so familiar with Zoom before at least mid 2020. They struggled a bit to come up, right? And then also we started to get some terms like JD started to be written as one skill is to operate Zoom. Second one, okay, the other line of stress became like Zoom fatigue, and so on and so forth. We adopted English also adopted the Zoom as a word. Teams came up. Microsoft Suite was always available there. But look at the collaboration opportunities, collaboration facilities that both Google and Microsoft and maybe a few other platforms they started on. So basically, it has been, and I don't look at it as something that that the HR fraternity in particular did to because they liked it to do or they wanted to do. They have been wanting to do. We have been wanting to do this for a long time. However, this was probably the right time, which we had to do to ensure that our businesses are continuous. And let's not take that thing away from our discussion. I hope I've answered you, Neha.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Thanks for your views. I agree that the pandemic has worked as a catalyst in adoption of HR technologies. Like they were always there, but the rate of adoption has increased massively. Yeah. So I would also request Mr. Sudeep to give your opinion on the same, please.
Yeah, so I think very rightly, in continuation to what Sanjeev said, we have to also understand that the larger workforce of India, while we have today the IT-enabled services and probably some of those roles where larger part of the workforce still works remote. But if you take that away for a minute and concentrate into the other industries, it's actually the other side, other way. You have a lot of, it's like, if you talk about FMCG, right? That guy's job is basically to ensure that the stores are filled with their products. That cannot be done remotely. It has to be done, on a kind of thing. So that huge element of workforce to be managed, to be kept agile, to be motivated, to be kept engaged was the biggest challenge at that point of time. I think, and believe you me, it was not easy. So I think thanks to probably the admin teams across the country, and the sectors and the companies, because I think that was the only way people realized that they could kind of connect and setting up those interfaces. Please understand, there are a lot of people who had to be even taught during that time that how to use these interfaces because they might not have used them, right? And amidst of social distancing, right? Amidst of the biggest wave of this. So that's why I say that while pandemic has been an extremely bad experience for us, but I think the only thing is it was a compulsion that technology only can be the next driving force and do that. It reminds me of certain onboarding for blue collar employees, which had happened and which they had never done, right? And I think when the first thought came in that it's the only way out, a lot of people had a disbelief. And I would like to say this because the first thing was that probably they don't use a smartphone. And that's the second myth which got broke, because when the survey happened, we realized that probably they are not using advanced Apple phones and Samsung phones, but there are other low-priced smartphones they are using. And the third thing is that there was huge presence in social media by them, which means they use that, which means the adoption then became quite faster. So see, technology adoption was faster. Our own myth that this set of people probably don't use that was also broken.
Correct.
Which also broken. And all this could happen because of technology. I mean, without that, we would have not again been managing, or have managed it the way we could do it.
Correct, correct. Yeah, let's just hope we are heading towards a more and better version of Digital India and Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Sure.
Adoption of technology, it obviously eases the lives of blue collar workers also. Thank you so much for your opinion, sir. What every employer misses the most today is the humane touch, that is, the water cooler conversations, the laughing with their peers in person, etc., while hanging out in the office. So people were facing a lot of bottlenecks with communication during the initial phase of remote work. Earlier, they could just go to their colleague's desk and get things done very quickly. Effective communication became a problem when the pandemic started. But with the HR technology, that has been ironed out. And the HR tech continues to do wonders, even in the post-pandemic scenario. So I would like to know from both our speakers about their thoughts and experience on how technology has helped bridge the gap of communication in this remote working environment.
Sanjeev, after you.
Oh man. Okay. See, as you rightly said, Neha, the warmth of a handshake cannot be replicated on screen. Let's accept it.
That's right.
What organizations realized is that, and end of the day, please understand that it was not only for any particular sect of people, it was across. Leaders also would have missed, the little chats or the little laughs around in office. Let's not take that away.
Yeah.
So everybody understood and realized that this is the way to live, at least for the next couple of months. And an organization, we cannot let an organization's morale deplete, because a lot of other things were happening, some good, some not so good. Yeah, both at an organizational level, at a business level, and also maybe at a personal level, right? So I think I will just take the focus out of technology a little bit, just for a couple of seconds, because I think at that point in time, we all realized, we all understood that connecting a human to human was much more necessary. And technology was a media to do it. Right. So therefore going back to what I think both of us spoke earlier, was using this as a platform and trying to using the platforms to the most to do what we wanted to do. So if we could not have the water cooler conversations, if we could not have the so-called team engagement events or the fun at work events,
Yes, yes.
can we replicate that online? And a lot of organizations have done that, yeah, including my own. What it also meant and what it also opened up was to open up the families to families. I think a lot of organizations during this particular time, and I'm sure quite a few of them are continuing, we are still having our virtual engagement, fun or town hall events. And of course, by including the families, I think by that we could bridge a lot of the distance that any which ways was. The other thing that also happened in this was the entire transparency with which, because so for example, as leaders, when we come on and speak our heart out to people, even if it is on the screen, I think it is still, we are being much more open, and thereby rather letting our teams understand our own vulnerability, our own mental states, and basically by making us more human, if I may. Because otherwise, going to a program, standing on a pedestal, delivering an address, and coming down even in front of our own colleagues, I think somewhere, and this is my personal opinion, I think somewhere we were under some facade which got broken in this, and therefore, would not have happened if we had not adopted kind of technology. So therefore, I think it has been much more open and transparent. Technology made us, of course, the situation, but technology helped us doing what we needed to do, but could not have done physically. All yours, sir. All yours to you.
Sure. So I think I will put it across in this way, that as what Sanjeev said, that screen time cannot, or an interaction in a screen cannot make you experience what handshake used to be. But I think evolution says, the history says that every time either it has been necessity through which people have learned and human beings have learned and have progressed. The key factor here is availability of technology is there, and it's a science, it's a tool. Finally, how human beings behave on that is also very important. See, please understand, if you look into the kind of data that has come out because of the stress, a lot of that stress has actually resulted due to the behavioral attitude of probably the senior person in the call, or probably the guy who is asking the questions, or probably the manager, right? It has not been that technology was the reason for that. It is the human behavior which was the reason for that. Now, if you see, adoption of technology is for ease, but finally it is the human being who is behaving on that and that's critical, because finally that creates that higher level of engagement or probably disassociation, because what kind of interaction you are having finally is the resultant of the stress or probably an happy employee, because finally it's the employee's way of engagement, protocol of engagement, that is something which finally holds the key. So I think to answer you, it is evident that technology, I mean, human interaction, face-to-face interaction, warmth and all has taken a beating. And we have finally come to a stage where we have adopted technology and we have made good that this is the way out. Having said that, using of technology or usage of technology and how do we human beings use it in order to make it the most effective one is on us. That's how I think we need to look at it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree, completely agree that change is the only constant.
And I think I would like to also add that that requires a lot of discipline. So it's a two-way traffic. It also requires, like initially, I think, see, human beings also try to find easy way for them, right? Why we say ease of doing business, individuals find ease of doing. So let's say, for example, critical meetings, videos are not open. So it does not give that comfort, right? So we started learning that, okay, this is the new normal. This is how we have to do. So the behavioral approach is actually on the other side as well, which is being disciplined, being aware of how to use technology, ensure that you test the technology before you do something, like probably we were doing with Sarmishta and etc. And on a day-to-day basis as well. Ensure that the tools that you are using are upgraded. Ensure your cell phone is charged. If you are traveling, ensure that you have a good bandwidth. All that became disciplinary things for the individual also to adopt. And that's why I say that it's a two-way traffic. If both have been, diligently following these things, I think, again, I mean, technology was there and that's how we are able to face it so well.
Thank you so much, sir. Yeah, initially a lot of inertia was there, but then, like you said, that this is necessary for your survival in the professional world. So people are adopting it, and let's look forward to more of it.
Sure.
So just an extension to this, I would like to understand from Mr. Sanjeev Lahiri how HR is driving collaboration in the new era of work.
See, yeah, it is. End of the day, collaboration is a need, and I mean, forget the new era, even in the old era, if I may, which is BC, before COVID, without collaboration, could teams would have existed? No, we could not have, right?
Yeah.
Once again, technology has just given us I will say, a huge advantage to promote collaboration in whichever way. The collaborative. So earlier we did not have as many tools, even if it was there in the in the market. Adoption of it, or even actually signing up for one, people didn't see the need. Now there's no other way, right? The question, I'm just trying to think what HR is doing out there now. At least from my side, I can say that I have seen whatever little bit I have had the privilege of talking to a lot of people, being in a lot of forums during this period. I think first and foremost, the HR teams across industries, and I'm not limiting us to only our country, all over. We have been able to at least put the, I think we were one of the first teams to be adopting this, because we were expected to drive a lot of this. While the IT teams were supposed to provide for, we took on or rather we put on the hat of the change agent, and to be driving this change. And I will compliment each and every HR professional to have done a fabulous job in this. When we were going through our own struggles, we were also learning on the job, right? But I think as a part of our entire, I will just extend this a little further. A lot of people processes got changed, and I think that is where the HR's role has come in. Honestly speaking, organizations like manufacturing that I represent, and a lot of organizations, Sudeep was mentioning FMCG for one, where physical attendance was a must, right? So at least we could, and physical attendance meant actually going in and swiping, either swiping your card or basically using a biometric of any kind of sort. We have we have adopted at least the portable device to it. Yeah. We have adopted technologies which are now available on a mobile phone, and there are a lot of technologies available on a non-smartphone as well, right?
Absolutely.
Creating work processes like, okay, so performance management is no longer a form fill-up thing. Things have moved online. More importantly, I think the whole focus from just checking off the boxes of targets versus delivery has taken a little shape. A lot of efforts are also being recognized, and I compliment the HR teams to have brought this on the business table as well. Rewards as a whole process has undergone a change, right? Though it can be a topic of another day, but look at the entire gig economy that our country has done. Look at the amount of startups and unicorns that our country has produced. Now, does all of them have an office? No. Does all of them sit together and work in the BC, the way it used to happen in the BC era? No. So what has happened? So I think the entire decisions on the entire process of people management has undergone a huge change with this. And sure, would not have been possible unless the HR teams or the HR folks would have taken a very, very active role in driving this. Talent today is a global resource, not only from my next street. Let us understand that, and we have accepted it, right? Yes. Office timing is no longer come and sit 9 to 5. You can work from anywhere in most cases, in a lot of cases.
Right.
This change was not easy, and it is, as Sudeep used the term, it is an evolutionary change, I must say.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah. I'd just like to add here, I think we are... Yeah, I'd just like to add here, it was also what is called as learning from around, because if you see, I think in that, social media played a very big role. I think we must appreciate it. If you see, probably towards the end of the first wave, we started seeing people putting photographs of I think the new laptop that they have received post joining, few goodies, and probably a nice bag and etc. And then see how it became viral. In fact, many people, many companies started saying, oh, acha, this is one way of, it's a gratitude, which is one. The second thing, it can also probably linked to, some companies said, this is how it might also be linked to attrition, where people actually say that, these are the things we also expect, right? Second. The third is, it also started creating a presence, a branding for your organization. So this is another point which I wanted to be, that this made us to learn from others as well. It was that inculcated learning, what we see, that environmental learning, which you don't read in textbooks, not universities, colleges, but you see actually what's happening around. So pandemic has been that example where it just happened, and it happened on day one for everybody. It was the biggest leveler, right? It did not give anybody an additional time to it happened for everyone. And the survival was a tough thing for everyone, but we all started learning from each other, that what are the things that needs to be done, what other companies are doing, what we can adopt. And I think it also changed the way HR fraternities started seeing. They also started talking to technology people. They also started to understand technology. And I know today HR people who actually look into the growth aspect of the organization in their business plans. They talk to the CTOs, understand what's the budget, what are the options available for technological investments in terms of digitalization. And I think this all evolution has happened because of this.
Right. Thank you, sir. That was brilliant.
Sure.
And yeah, going forward, I think we'll have hybrid model of working. And let's hope for more hands-on learning experiences.
Sure.
So yeah, as rightly pointed out by you, we learn the best from others' experiences. So I think our audience would want to know from our esteemed speakers about the industry best practices and case studies of how the value of HR technology has elevated in the past 2 years owing to this pandemic. I would like both of your inputs, please.
Okay, so I think for a change, I'll go first. Let's give a bit to Sanjeev. So it might sound a little repetitive, so I'm not picking up those points which are already been told, which is hiring and I think engagement and onboarding and etc. Right? I'll pick up something which is very important, which is called as learning and development, because if you see, there is a huge element of hue and cry, and every day you will hear about skilling, increase of skills, and etc. Right? These words, I think what actually started happening is that because people used to come together in an office and etc., these used to be all qualitative discussions, and from the time it happened that we were in the mid of pandemic and etc., you cannot know more. So it's like this, right? And if HR is asked that how many trainings have you conducted during pandemic, it's the yards of measurement started moving. That how many programs have you done, how many people attended, and can you actually cascade it down to the productivity of work, right? So which means that because everybody was looking for more effective way to improve things, more effective way to get to the resultant or whatever. So that's where it started playing. Analytics became very important. It is just not activity. It is probably the outcome, the analytics, which became very important. That is one. And hence, the tools started helping people in terms of not only conducting programs, how many hours of training that has happened, what was his performance before, and post this training, what is the performance now, which means that's the effectivity of the program, right? So this is one which is very important. The second thing is the cloud-based, right? Because it's a two-way traffic. HR is able to access the files at a universal level within, depending upon the hierarchy of people, and individuals are also able to live see that what's happening, right? It is not that at the end of a quarter you come back and you say, sorry dude, your performance is not good. It's like getting assessed. So it's a week-to-week review, probably mid of the week some reviews, or probably it's an overall engagement. So the worth of an employee was also coming out. many times the worth of an employee is not just the role that he's doing, it is probably the other functional roles also that he's playing. So is he really doing that? And if he's doing, then what's the quantum of measurement of that? That became very important. And I think that played very important. And HR tech played a very important role in terms of performance management, learning, and finally what is called as outcome, deriving the outcome. So yeah, Sanjeev.
I will just add on to this.
Sure.
See, the entire the whole aspect of wellness, team engagement also was completely based on technology, right? So I think this is the first time, and I will quote examples from my own organization, that so earlier our town halls used to be physical, yeah, where now this is a need where maybe, the communication needs to go straight from the CEO to the person on the shop floor. Use the platform, right? And it was completely, and we could do it completely at a real time, live conversation, all questions allowed. Yeah, the kind of a mode which we had to depend upon when somebody is traveling to a location. Like, so that is one. Adding up to what on the L&D, what Sudeep just said. Once again, the content was global. The trainer, the faculty was global. Yeah. And a lot of times we tried, at least in my own organization, we tried to use our own internal faculties. Yeah. I mean, internal year trainers with a little bit of, extra nudge, if I may, and to use, a little bit of training, quote unquote, to use the technology. Had never happened in the past, right? Trying to quantify the data, and I must say that at least our leadership meetings became much more crisp. Yeah. Post this, you cannot have a 6 hours sitting in front of a screen. We ensured that all our meetings end in 2 hours. However, critical business topic it is. Yeah. Now, the other thing, and I think for all HR professionals, this would be important. Yeah. And let us look at this, that, see, once again, I go back to the saying that we all adopted technology as a survival mode. I think now it's the time to rebuild for it. Some of us who got a little jittered because technology is seen to be taking away or has taken away the work that I was doing, like the so-called erstwhile time office roles. People in manufacturing can probably relate to what I'm saying. Yeah, I think it is time for us to look beyond than what we were doing. So it is a huge, huge opportunity for each one of us. So to adopt the technology which can take away our repetitive manual interventions away. A lot of organizations have done it. A lot of organizations are in the process of doing it. Yeah, let us look at this as an opportunity to see, okay, now what can we do beyond what we were doing earlier? Because few of these jobs are indeed going away. Look at the banks. Yeah. Is there any need? Is there any need to go to the bank anymore today? No. Was it the same in March 2020? For some things we still had to go. Right? Look at e-commerce. But with e-commerce coming in, are we saying that our local grocer is out of job? No.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it is the mindset change. Again, once again, I'm in a preaching mode, maybe, pardon me for that. But I think it is for all HR folks who are on this platform today. My 2 cents would be just look at this. It is an amazing tool. Technology is not a foe. It is a friend to live with.
Right. Thank you so much. It was really brilliant. I would like to add here something here from some other field. So, like Sudeep sir rightly said, that people are actually looking at numbers and the performance of their employees that would be outcome oriented, and they are being data driven. So even the top athletes these days, before signing up a contract or representing their brand or a county or something, they actually take analytics into consideration before putting up their price. Okay, they would know, what the numbers, right? Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
So my next question is for Mr. Sudeep. What do you think are the top HR technologies to look for in 2022?
It's a very interesting point, and I think that's probably the way forward question, because all this while we have been talking about what has happened and how we have evolved about it, what are the challenges we have faced, and etc. Uh, and I think this is a very fascinating question. People who have registered, they are all interested to know that what's going to go forward. So I think before some of the questions have come up, and we would take turn to kind of address them. But as a way forward, I would say the first thing which comes to my mind is gig economy. See the flexibility that people are looking for in terms of willing to work, right? Which is, if you see, there is a sharp spike in terms of the increase of people into the choice of employment that they want. Organizations are looking for a mix of people, which is permanent, contract, trainees, gig workers, and etc. Right? Now, how would HR look into it? It's a humongous task, which means there has to be a platform for HR to kind of onboard them, to have the processing them, their remunerations being paid out in terms of scales or whatsoever, and etc. Right? So I think adoption of tools to enable gig workforce is the biggest thing that's going to happen. And I think in a few years down the line, I think what we are doing today, which is probably HR Parichay or probably a webinar and etc., we would see specific people who represent and are probably working as gig workers coming and sharing their experiences in webinars, that how has life been for them in the last 2-3 years, what is that engagement all about, what is that they are loving about it, and many of those things. But gig force is going to be, or gig workforce is going to be one of the most interesting things. The second thing is, of course, I go back to what I said about learning and development, right? Now, learning and development, if you see, there are two aspects. One is definitely you have some skill. That's why you are in an organization, and it is expected that you would probably learn the new skills, right? But I think the new thing which has come is transferable skills. How are you able to transfer the skills as well? Which means how, as a group, as a team, as a unit, people are able to kind of work together and traverse the skills from one person to another, or the transfer the skills from one person to another, and probably the competencies, right? Now, how would that happen? When you hear it in English, you realize that even how is it possible? Because we are talking about multiple sectors. Here, technology comes into play. Because whether it's a project which was done within time, or whether it is a sale which was done on time, or whether it is an upselling that has happened on time, or probably it's a release that has happened on time, which is typically an IT nomenclature. How has the team behaved it? What's the case study? How have some of the individuals who had certain skills done in this, and how has that helped to kind of fast track it, or probably identify some challenges and how they could overcome that? This is nothing but a case study, which we call it, which will be there. And this data is then going to get real-time tested with some live projects, with something which is an yardstick. So, this is where the learning and development and typically transfer of skills is going to play a big role. Third would be, again, engagement. When I say engagement, I think we are going to see probably a lot of tools, typically where you may say that it would be starting from punching the attendance for the day and punching probably for the BP for the same day, or maybe punching out and even punching out the BP that, because what I'm trying to say is that it's discipline, it's health, and probably even the productivity coming out. So we will see a lot of cloud computing, and I think professionals who are typically gearing up for a career would definitely need to focus on that, because cloud computing and the assimilation of that, coming together of that and having that in the HR space is going to be huge. So these are the three things which comes at the top of my mind.
If I can just add, just add to what Sudeep has said, very rightly. I think the other thing that is coming on is onto data analytics and business analytics. Not the way the statistician would look at it, but how you and I or a common man can actually interpret that data. Business intelligence and entire data management and analytics, I think, is another foray where a lot of investment development is happening on a technology front. And I think that is another, it is going to be a big contributor, I must say, to businesses, and therefore an opportunity to anybody who would want to venture.
Sure.
Thank you so much, sir. The discussion we have had it was really comprehensive, and we got some insights, really great insights. We have some questions from our audiences. So we are moving on to the Q&A session now. So we request your views on how will this technology help HR leadership be a high value strategic contributor?
Come again, sorry, might have to repeat the question.
Sure. How will this technology help HR leadership be a high value strategic contributor?
Okay, I'll take it.
Okay.
Sorry, Sudeep.
It will not happen just by being around. It has to happen by understanding of business. HR has to understand that what is the business that we are into. First of all, that organization, right? What's happening around the world, and how are probably companies like us are doing? What's the technological edge? What is the adoption? And what more can be done from there? Second, HR has to also get along with the leaders in other functions to understand that what is the cross-culture learning that needs to be done and where they can contribute. HR has to look for windows and doors where they can come and contribute. Like say, for example, till some years back, HR, if an organization has probably less than 20% attrition, HR has to go back and say, you know what, I probably have actually earned revenue, but now by saving cost. Because if all these people would have moved out and a new set of people would have come at a higher cost, we would have spent more. So, it's a thought that is there. HR has to also talk to CTOs and say that what percentage of the technology which is likely to be implemented new has an HR budget within. It's like the technology budget and operations budget within technology budget, HR budget within technology budget, like that has to understand. They have to look into it, that how much of that has to be spent in probably retention, how much of that has to be spent into new talent acquisition, and how much of that has to actually be kept at the end of the day for appraisal systems as well. So all that has to be inclusive. Only then it is that HR will be part of decision making. HR will be part of what it is talking about. See, please understand, technology will not overnight change everything. It is just like that, right? It is buying a book doesn't make you pass the exam. You have to study the exam. You have to study the book for the exam. So technology is just like that. Adoption of technology does not guarantee success until unless you use it and know how to use it and where to use it.
Yeah, just to add again, Sudeep, thank you. See, my very simple point on this is that look at the time that HR folks spend on what type of activities. I am sure all of us will agree that most of our time is spent on activities, which are of the least value and which are repetitive in nature, right? With technology coming and taking it away, first and foremost, the biggest boon that we all will get is that if we're able to use those modules correctly, we save a lot of time, which is available for us. Nothing takes away from what Sudeep has just very, very aptly mentioned, and thanks Sudeep for that. For us to contribute to the business, we need to understand what the business is. Yeah, we come to work and we get sucked into, or we get dragged into these day-to-day mundane things. A lot of us find a lot of value doing it, but please understand what value does efforts on those matters, what value it adds to the business. Pardon me for saying this, it adds no value to the business. For us to be business contributors, understand the business, learn what the business needs, create our networks within the business, and of course, be that person, or rather, be that skill to go to, which can bring up the people agenda on the table. If you're able to do this, and once again, technology is not going to make us do that, but technology can help us do that if we are able to use the tools available effectively.
Makes sense. A lot of sense, sir. Thank you. So the next question from our audience is, can this remote working create more employment opportunities?
My straight answer is yes, if that is the question. Of course, we spoke about gig a long time.
Yeah.
I think it is definitely opened up. Yeah, we have a choice today to. I'll look at two aspects of it. As a person who can offer a service, but does not want to get stuck to a particular organization or to a particular regime, I think the world is open.
Yeah.
So it is an opportunity for us and for organizations as well. We can, it is an open talent. We need to be open with our people processes. We cannot expect everybody to come and work 9 to 5 under our roof and do. No. It is coming there. And I hope we all understand that India is the first country to have put out some legislation, on gig. No other country in the world has it. While there are a lot of countries in the world which uses gig the way they want to use it. So I think it's a very, very positive move, from our legislators, and also for us as industries to adopt and accept it. Yes, we have to be ready to accept it. Why I'm saying this is because a lot of things that works on a 9 to 5 job may not work for gigs, including people processes, including rewards, including appraisals, and so on and so forth.
Of course. Because there's no, there's lesser accountability there.
I'm never saying that. No, it can never be.
Okay. So, what are the what training sessions are being conducted for startups with employee strength?
Yeah, I've seen that question. Okay, so
what training sessions can we see? For startups, if you say 10 to 20 employees or whatsoever, see, there are certain training which is function-based, which is role-based, function-based. The only thing is, I think the duration is the key factor here, because more number of employees, you have to probably have more batches, or probably the duration. So I don't think there is specific thing about a startup having some very different kind of programs or whatsoever. Yeah, if you ask me about motivation as the certain learning or training programs of how do you motivate people, or how do you motivate people to do multiple work, multiple roles, or multifaceted roles in a startups and etc., are things which are very, very unique to the startups. But what I wanted to say is that there is nothing very specific for a startup exclusively, and there is for a large company. It is more or less three very important things. First, understand what you want to do as a training. Second is why you want to do it. Why you want to do it, what you want to do it, and after you have done this, check back that really it is helping into the desired result or not. That's how it is. It is no more that in a year, 5 lakh has to be spent. So find out ways and means of spending 5 lakhs. Hello, the answer is today, after spending 5 lakhs, have you actually done at least 5 into 5, 25 lakhs? So that's the biggest struggle, right? And I think HR fraternity has to understand that it is no more just spending 5 lakh. It is how do I actually get 25 lakh by spending 5 lakh? And people who have adopted to that, people who have opened to that, people who have increased the learnability to adoption of that and giving desired results, and I'm finding it much more fascinating that the job is much more recognizable. The job has more flamboyancy in this. The job has more, what you call is accountability in this, and it's a versatile thing altogether.
See, my one-line answer to this would have been that training is always a business need. It is not one size fits all, or it is not somebody else is doing, so I would do. Rest is exactly what Sudeep has said. Thanks.
Thank you so much, sir. Yeah, we need to focus on the ROI. So the next is, how do we measure the pulse of remote employees by going beyond a survey? Probably would be another topic of discussion, but can this pulse check turn employees to employer brand ambassadors, please?
I'm not sure. I think my answer will be you guys have to do another program for that because that's a little different topic.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are some apps, etc., available which measures the the number of smileys from what it is coming in and try to do some analytics about it. I am not sure. It is just a way. It is. I mean, it has to come out because here we are talking of how a person feels, and there's no one size once again to do it. But yeah, it's a very, very interesting and a very in-depth topic for the day.
Okay. The next question is, can we integrate reward and recognition programs using technology?
Sanjeev, you would like to answer that?
See, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. A is, what are you rewarding? And when are you rewarding? I mean, what are you rewarding for? What is the reward or what is the recognition? And as such, I mean, why are you doing it? Technology, once again, guys, is not a panacea. It is a tool, right? So therefore, for example, what we did is that, I mean, in my organization, we identified so we have a reward and recognition scheme. Yep. We call it a celebrating people. So under that, we have a couple of options and couple of, so it's an entire framework to identify certain facets on what the organization wants to recognize and may or may not be reward to that. The end. So once we got the information, the data, the nomination, the whole platform was run on Zoom. The whole event was run on Zoom. In the earlier days, I would have given people physical vouchers. Now I give people e-vouchers. So, yeah, yes and no to that. Yeah.
That's true, sir. How important is it for small businesses to adopt HR technology to boost their business?
I personally think immense. And Sudeep, I just jumped in by hearing this. I think it is immense. It is indeed immense. Point is, once again, look at the ROI, look at your business need. And so if you need to have the people, if you need to have the jobs, not necessarily only HR jobs, right? That technology can take over, then I think you can utilize the talent in a much, much better way, which I'm sure startups or smaller businesses would be more interested to do. I'm sure you will not want to pay somebody to only running payroll. There are much better ways of doing it. And I mean, with the same investment, you can get a talent who can help you run your business forward. So I think I would rather look at it as an enormous opportunity for smaller businesses to adopt technology and move forward. So please, you want to add?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Completely agree. I think it's like entrepreneurs used to probably 15, 20 years back used to think that, okay, one is the capital, which is the real money. And the next thing is human capital, right? Because it's like this, that who are the people who will actually work, right? That's how it is. And I think the third ingredient factor today that has become very important is technology and the aspects of technology, digitalization, and probably having less number of people, automate most of the things. So these are the three things. So it's called technology capital today. So you need to have actual capital, then human capital and technology capital with that oxygen. So all this, if you ask me what we are talking about, the tech HR part and etc., it is actually part of both the HR as well as the technology. So again, if an organization is looking to scale, they need to have these things in place, because they cannot say that I will scale. When I scale, I will bring them. It will not happen. The scale itself will not happen because these things are not there.
True.
Agree. So coming to our last question. Sorry, we are running short of time now. How will this technology help HR leadership be a high value strategic contributor?
I think we have answered
Sanjeev,
that.
sir, could you? Yeah.
We've answered that question, I believe. It
Yeah.
was the first question that we answered.
High value strategic, we have answered that.
We have answered that question.
Okay. With technology taking the front seat and becoming an integral part of the HR function, how important is it for HR professionals to be tech savvy and open to adopting technology?
Yeah, so now adoption to technology is very important thing. If you ask me, I would say that if we have shifted from watching more of web series because of the fact that we have finally found a way that that's what I like, and I was not so tech savvy. Then I learned in Google how to do it, and then I realized this is the way to do it. And once done, I'm now familiar. I would say, folks, the same thing applies to Google about work also. Find out how it is to be done and ask people that what is the best way to done. See, again, I would say when the question is how important, the answer is very important. If somebody says how to do it and why should I do it, then the answer is that it is all about adoption. It is all about if you don't do it, you will be lost. It will be lost. As simple as that. There's a fine thing like during initial days when the war used to be there, I think it happened that people used to probably take swords and get into the front line, right? There was only one line which was front line. There was no multiple layer till the time it happened that the animals came into kind of thing and all. And then, of course, so, the swords changed from shapes and size. And finally, they realized that there is cannon which can create more damage to the enemy, right? So suddenly what happened is that the people who can fire cannons were of more in demand, and people who could not adopt from fighting with a sword to running cannon had lost it. Probably they lost it forever. So I think it's the same thing. It's we individuals which we need to learn how to adopt it and which are the ways to adopt it. And probably I always say is to very openly ask for it that I don't know and please let me know how do we do it. There's no shame in that.
I will just add on to this and just, I mean, I don't know whether what I'm saying, it might hurt some sentiments, but please pardon me for that. Guys, in this whole, we are talking of the great resignation, right? Now, okay, there are a lot of organizations which say, okay, that is a US event and all of those, but let us look at this. What is happening in our own country? If you look at it, there are a lot of layoffs happening. At the same time, there are a lot of recruitments happening. What does this data tell? If I look at it closely, it is actually a lot of upskilling, or say skills are being changed. And which skills are being changed? The skills which have under quote unquote being marked or being valued as redundant today. With technology being on the center stage, more importantly, this technology being available, technology being one of the basic business needs now, let us not shy away from that fact and let us not get ourselves in a situation to have the unfortunate, marked being redundant or not relevant to the organization today. Yeah, I know I have said, I've probably used a very strong statement, but I think the situation is that unless we adapt, we will not evolve. And unless we evolve, we will not sustain. Even as individuals, as professionals, forget the businesses. Thanks.
That's too low.
Let's all keep upskilling and be industry ready and keep adapting.
Sure.
So on this note, I would like to thank our esteemed speakers for taking out time from their busy schedules and sharing the wonderful insights with us today. Also, I would like to thank our attendees for making this session successful. Thank you so much. Hope you found the session very helpful, informative, and insightful. And if you have any questions related to any topic that were not answered in the session, please join our Great Tribe community and get your queries answered by our subject matter experts. Also, here is the link to the community posted in the chat section. Our next Parichay session is on the 10th of March 2022, and the session will host Mr. K. Narayana, who's an additional commissioner, Central EPF on Employee Provident Fund. And I'm really sure that nobody wants to miss this particular session. So please register. Looking forward to seeing you in our upcoming Parichay Ask the Expert session. The registration link for the same is shared in the chat option. Hope to see you all again. Until then, stay safe, take care, and have a great time.
Thank you. Thank you, Neha.
Thanks. Thanks,
Thanks, Sanjeev. Thanks,
everyone.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks to all of you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.